Almost every business, the suspects, the people that might buy from you, are infinitely greater than your resources to get in front of them all. Okay? It's just not possible. And if you want a way to visualize it, think of a stack of yellow pages, or white pages. If you're B2B, it's yellow. If it's B2C, it's white pages. But just a stack of them this high, and those are your suspects. Now, we all know it's ridiculous to think we're going to start with the A's and just dial every number in those books. We're not going to do that. Now, this is where that cost accountant keeps jumping out at me. Because as we think about this process, we're going to fill this all up. There we go. So we think about this process. I can get the Yellow Pages books. How much does it cost me to call US West or Quest or whoever they are today and say, send me the Yellow Pages book? Nothing. It's free, okay? Or I could go online and get the same names and numbers. So getting this costs nothing. There's no cost to that. Also no value, all right? Now, as you move people through this process, guess what? You figure the cost goes up or down? Yeah, it goes up. In every step, it doesn't go up $1. The first step is quite inexpensive. And in some cases, for those of you who are practicing the YouTube video stuff, that first step can be almost free. You're pretty close. But as you move it farther and farther, it's not a buck it costs you. The next step is $5, and the next step is $30, and the next step is $500. So every step you take in this process is more important because you're not to a deal until you get through it. But every step costs more and more and more and more money. So the whole concept is don't move people through the process unless they're really good suspects. Because you're reaching in your pocket and paying more and more money for every single solitary step. So getting this front end right is really important. So how do you do that? Pardon?
Qualify.
Absolutely. I love it. Good sales guy. And one of the challenges is, for most of us, we aren't real good at what we call defining an ideal client. And the way I would suggest, because why do I want to have a definition for an ideal client? Because I don't know how to qualify unless I know what one looks like, okay? So I have to have a definition. I would turn here to start to create my definition. I told you that delivery is a critical part of creating revenue. Partially because when I turn to delivery and I say, who can I delight and make a lot of money? Okay? I mean, I don't want to delight them and not make money. So who can I delight and make a lot of money? Now, when I understand our delivery process and I can figure out what that ideal client looks like, now I can start to have conversations with the salespeople and say, wow, how do you close them? You know, what's the challenge to actually getting them to sign a contract? And then I can turn to the marketing part of the business here in Gold and say, how do you find them? Where are they? How do we get them? Do we go to trade shows, or do we knock on doors, or we do websites or search engines? What do we do to find those ideal clients? Because guess what? I don't want to find anything that doesn't look like an ideal client. Anything I find that doesn't look like an ideal client, that I move through this process, I'm just throwing money at. My cost of chaos is going up through the roof. My sales cycle is extending. My percent of wins is dropping. Everything is happening that's wrong if I don't start with some idea. And we don't know exactly. I think of, we got a clock back there on the wall, a clock face, and I think of it as, I just want to know if we're going toward the 12, or we're going toward the 3, or we're going toward the 9, or we're going toward the 6. If we just all as a team are headed toward one of those 4 numbers, we're much more likely to be dealing with ideal clients than if one of us is going to 3, and one's going to 9, and when we end up with all kinds of chaos. That's where that cost of chaos gets so high when we can't answer the definition of what does an ideal client look like.